Genshin Impact has three main currencies: Primogems, Resin, and Mora. Primogems are spent exclusively for wishing, Resin is spent for various materials used on your characters, and Mora is by far the most important of the three and is used in basically everything. Mora is used to level characters, level weapons, level artifacts and characters, ascend weapons, refine weapons, craft with alchemy, craft at blacksmiths, and buy from most shops. So what would happen if we disregarded Mora entirely? This is the dumbest idea I've ever had, but I'm doing it either way. Here are the rules. I cannot spend Mora at any point in the challenge. All characters are allowed. With all the characters, you might be able to assemble a team that can get around this limitation and do just fine, so I don't think this challenge will be that bad.
This challenge broke me.
Let's see if you can beat Genshin Impact without spending Mora. Before we can really start, we need to choose a traveler. I did a poll in Aether 1, so... I'm never going to choose Aether in one of these challenges. Even in the first act we have problems. It's not in any of the fights, of course, because enemies at this low AR will never be a problem. It's just the instinct to level characters or weapons when I see they can be. This never actually happened during the playthrough, but I did get close to accidentally spending more at some points during the challenge. Most of Act 1 isn't worth going over, except the fact that we get Amber. When we unlock Wishing, we have a free 10 pull on Event and Standard banner.
4-star. Something good. Something that'll kill. Something that'll kill. Strong. Shield character. Healer, shield character. Healer, shield character. Healer, shield character. Healer, shield character. Healer. Healer! And it's Sayu, one of my favorite characters. Let's go. Either way, I'm wishing for Venti. Give us Dory. Dory or Toma. Dory or Toma. Dory or... DORY! Another 4-star. Man, our luck is off the charts here. That's another one of the characters I wanted.
2 healers and a shielder is pretty much perfect. The only thing we're missing is a DPS, but we get a free one down the road. First, we do Amber's domain. It's a good point to say that all the trial characters are allowed. This domain was easy, no problems. Same goes for Kai's domain. But the thing more important about this domain is that it gives us Kaya. Kaya is the best free character from this quest, and we will definitely be using him. Lastly was Lisa's domain, which we entirely skipped, and we got Lisa from the domain, who we're probably not going to use. It's a good point to mention that Mondstadt's Archon quests give out a lot of character experience. This will be our only real chance to level any of our characters, so any of our characters we get later on after Mondstadt will be stuck at low levels, which will be a massive problem. The experience you get from fighting enemies is also very minimal and won't be useful. Now we have to get to AR 10 to be able to continue on to Mondstadt Act 2. The biggest problem with AR grinding in this challenge is that, you know, I can't spend more. Because of this, I can't get far in the Adventure Handbook at all, and in pretty much every other challenge, I always use the Adventure Handbook during this AR grind to do it pretty easily. In this challenge, I'll just have to do random other things. The main things I do are opening a lot of chests and animalculi hunting. I also did Kaya's story quest, which I wanted to save for the AR 18 grind, but I would rather do this than ley lines. Also, while I was streaming, I realized I had streamed the day before Sayu's birthday. And if you know me, you know that Sayu is my second favorite character.
And... grr.
Happy belated birthday, Sayu! By the way, I did a Sayu birthday stream and it was a lot of fun. You should watch it. When we reach AR 10, we get a 10 pull on Standard banner.
Shield character. Layla. 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 You know, it could be worse. It could be worse. Okay?
Honestly, it could have been worse. The flute goes pretty well with Kaya, so I'm not complaining. Now we can start Act 2. We meet the funny green guy and go to Windrise to fight the Eye of the Storm. Something happened in the middle of this fight.
Sayu birthday! Sayu birthday! Sayu birthday! Sayu birthday! I don't care about you, Eye of the Storm. Sayu birthday!
We don't even have to talk about the rest of this fight, but it was easy. We gotta steal the lyre from the cathedral and then meet the guy I want to do some unspeakable things with, and then go to the Fatui hideout, and I heavily use Diluc here. Because of that, the domain was easy. Next we have to get 3 teardrop crystals, and the first one requires you to be a ruin guard. It couldn't do much to us, so it was quickly destroyed. Next we get the one from the Hilichurl camp, and also do the 3 barrier quests while I'm over there. Lastly was the domain, and all the enemies were pretty basic, so it was easy. I predicted we won't have much problems with any enemies until our world level starts being ascended. Now we can call it all in.
That's the end of Act 2, and now we need to get to AR-18 to continue on to Act 3. One of the first things I do is go to Dragonspine. Even this early into the challenge, I can see how fights are getting slower. The fight against the Frost Arm Lava Troll took over 3 minutes, which is concerning for the future. I tried doing the world quest in Dragonspine, but I couldn't do the 3 shards quest because of this time challenge. I left Dragonspine soon after that. By reaching AR-12, we unlock commissions, which we obviously do. It's a very good source for AR experience. Now I guess it's time to continue just grabbing random chests and collecting animoculi. After doing that for a while, I do Amber's story quest and then go to do some world quests in Liyue. While I'm in Liyue, I also collect some Geoculi. The next day I do Zhangling's story quest and some commissions, which is enough to get us to AR-18. Now we can finally start Act 3 of Mondstadt. The Abyss Mage and Hilichurls at the front of Stormterror's lair were easy because I was just able to freeze them. In Stormterror's lair we have to activate 3 light actuators, and only one of them requires combat. There were just more Somatrolls than Abyss Mage, and even when enemies are 10 levels above our characters, they can't deal much damage. Lastly, we have to fight Dvalin, and I was really worried for this fight because I thought it was going to take a long time because of how below par our damage is. But then I remembered you get a trial Venti here, so it was really easy. I also find it funny and concerning that Venti is basically double our HP. This is because of artifacts and levels. Leveling characters, even by a bit, can increase a character's base stats by a pivotal amount. With our low base stats, the percentage increase from artifacts will be very minimal, and even flat stats will increase the stat more than the percentage because of how low our base stats are. This is especially a problem for characters that scale off of something like HP or defense. Either way, Act 3 of Mondstadt's over. Now I have to get to AR-23 to start Liyue Act 1. We do Lisa's story quest afterwards, and the difference between Lisa's damage and my character's damage is comical. Soon after we reach AR-20, which raises our world level. This is the second big problem in this challenge. Enemy levels and damage ascends as you raise your AR, but we can't do that because we can't spend more to level our characters, artifacts, and even weapons. It's going to get to the point where I get one shot even with a shield. We also unlock Spiral Abyss, but I know for a fact I'm not going to be able to get far in that at all. In fact, when I tried, I couldn't even get 9 stars on floor 1. We've still got some world quests we can do with Liyue, so we start doing those. Treasure Lost, Treasure Found goes fine, but for Luhua Landscapes I couldn't even beat 3 Abyss Mages. Our team works best with time, and time trials do not allow us time. We give up on that and do Diluc's story quest. Almost every fight in the story quest allows you to use Diluc, so it was fine. I was able to get my 2 favorite characters in a picture, so that's nice. Next is Razor story quest, which wasn't too bad either. The only battle that had the risk of being difficult was the Wolf of the North, but it gives us Trial Razor, so we were fine. But it's a whole different story when we fought him without Razor. This fight in its entirety took 14 minutes, and everybody besides Dory was dead by the end of the fight. Let me explain why my team almost completely wiped. Phase 1 isn't too bad. The only real bad thing is whenever he hits me, he takes out half of my HP. Yes, that's considered not that bad during this fight. He transitioned to phase 2 early, which is a bad thing. The attacks that he himself do are slower to come out, but stronger. But it's not that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the cryo spikes falling from the sky and the wolves. Because we have such a little HP, if we don't have a shield and we get hit by those, we lose about 1/5 of our HP. And now the slashes actually do over half my HP. So great! The wolves aren't as much of a problem because they don't deal much damage. There's also the Howl, but with Toma's shield we can deflect most of the hits from it. Man, he's such a useful engine. All of that is pretty manageable. So why did most of my team wipe? Well, it's because the longer you take on phase 2, the faster his attacks come. Look at the speed at which the wolves come out. It's fucking ridiculous. Also, I take back what I said about them not doing much damage because it doesn't matter anymore. If they get a good like 10 hits on you, which they probably will at this speed, they're gonna destroy you. Not to mention the Wolf in the North is still slashing and the cryo spikes are falling. It's honestly a miracle this doesn't take more than one attempt.
That was awful. Why was it so hectic at the end? Everybody's dead except for Dory. What the fuck was that?
We do our commissions, and at this point I really wanted to get Venti. But I had no real way of getting Primo Gems because Spiral Abyss was a big no-no, and there were no events going on at the time, so... Venti. Toma or Dory. The stringless. I'm not even using a bow character. But maybe for Venti. Venti. Yeah. Yeah, yes. Sir. Oh my god. Dory. That's not awful. Ooh, 5-star, 5-star. Venti. 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 Venti! Yes! Ventoy! And a Dory, to boot. I stand by my decision to pay money. Also, that stringless was really good for us to get, because that weapon is really good for Venti. We do some runs of the Trial Grounds of Thunder with our Venti and some more random exploring. It may seem like I'm replacing Sayu for Venti, but this is just going to be my main team for now. When I feel like using Sayu or need to use Sayu, I'll have a team for that as well. I returned to the Trial Grounds of Thunder to get to AR-23, and we did that in no time. Now we can start Liyue Act 1. The one who asks who shares the memory dies, and now we have to tell the ones who could share the memory, but not quite about his death, as the one who shares the memory. We do the Virgin J Chamber quest before meeting with Mooncarver. The energy recharge buff made it so we always had the enemy stuck in our black hole. Next is Mountain Shaper, and all we had to do was find this guy's brother in the Amber, and he tells us to get lost. For Cloud Retainer, we made her some food and then skipped her domain. Lastly is the man who can't stop lamenting. In this part of the quest, we fight a Ruin Hunter who couldn't do much besides almost one-shot Venti. That's the end of Act 1. Here's our 4-star. Here's our 4-star. Boom, it's a 4-star. What's it gonna be? Shit, that's what it is. It's absolute shit. Now we have to get to AR-25. But who cares about that when the new wings released? No joke, these are probably my favorite wings now. The leftover Genesis crystals and the Primo Gems we get from the bundle got us a 10-pull. Hoyoverse is so nice for this bundle. So nice. They're feeling real nice. They're gonna give me a 5-star in this next 10-pull. They're just feeling that nice. They're not nice. Never mind, they're not nice. This game's cruel. Now to get to AR-25, commence the random bullshit. After a few hours, we're at AR-25 and we have to do the Ascension domain. I was really worried for this, but then I realized with the 4-point blank updates, they severely nerfed the Ascension domain. Or at least just the first one. They got rid of the Electro-Hypostasis, the Rune Guard, the Abyss Mage, the Agent, literally everything that made the Ascension domain hard and exciting. I was still worried that I wasn't going to be able to clear the last room because I was on a strict time limit, but I did it second try. After that, I tried a domain in Liyue, which gave us a first wipe of the playthrough. Clearly, I was no match for it. I think we should just start Act 2 of Liyue. We meet the man who wants to know who shares the memory, but then I realized the month turned over, so I could use my Starduffs and give some wishes. 4-star. Sound good. Sure. Oh, another 4-star. Bennett is not too bad, actually. I will take a Bennett. Another 4-star? Wait, what is happening? Wait a second. Another Bennett. What are the odds of getting 2 Bennetts in a row? Oh my god, another 4-star. Elise. Bennett is a great character, so I'm 100% using him in some form. Also, C1 Bennett was very nice to get because his first constellation is great. I test out Bennett at the cooking pot in Mondstadt. All that were there were just a bunch of different types of hilichurls, and they were easy. Next was Madam Pink's teapot, and this might be a little unexpected, but this was the hardest domain so far. All the enemies are over double our levels, and we can't take hits well at all. I think the worst part about all of this is that things would have been fine if I brought Toma the tank engine. The final room of enemies is horrible. We constantly got frozen and trapped in the ice cage. Also, our damage against the big slimes is painful. Thankfully for the second wave, I was able to knock the cryo slime off the platform, so the electro slimes could be dealt with easier. Once we're finally done with that, we meet Chi-Chi, who tells us to go find a Coco Goat. We go to the Guizhong Ballista, and there's a bunch of treasure hoarders there. While this fight was long, 8 minutes to be exact, it wasn't all that hard. Afterwards, Zhongli has a date with the one who shares the memory, and that's where Act 2 ends. They give us Xingqiu story quests to do, but before that, we did the Chi of Yore, which I 100% thought I wasn't going to be able to do. Stunningly, I was able to do it, but looking back on it, they were only level 30. All the important fights in Xingqiu's quest have Xingqiu as a trial character, so there's no problems. Now I have a brilliant idea to get to AR-28. Just do the Trial Guns of Thunder 46 times. This domain is really easy, so it wasn't hard. It just took a long time. There we go, AR-28 finally. Jesus Christ. After an hour of doing that, we can start Act 3 of Liyue. We trigger the animal mechanism in the mountains with Venti, and then go to the Guizhong Ballista to fight some Millelith soldiers. Venti's burst is really good for grouping up enemies, and in this fight it was basically necessary to do that because look at how fast Dory died. Also, the instant I revived her and switched to her, she died. We meet the woman who spends a lot of Mora,
You.
and go to sing to some flowers for the man who wants to know who shares the memory.
She had not been 2 weeks from shore when down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow.
The 3 cryo whopper flowers had potential to be tough, but I quickly drowned all 3 of them. Now it's time for Child. This fight reminds me of the one with the treasure hoarders at Guizhong Ballista. Slow? Yes. Difficult? No. If we were to get hit by any of his attacks, he tanks our HP bar. But it's not that hard to dodge his attacks. I was able to make it through the entire fight without anybody dying, and this fight in its entirety took 13 minutes. And about 2 of those minutes was cutscene. Next is Osile, and I was worried we would not be able to do this in the allotted time because of how bad we do before we get our buffs. But thankfully I was just barely able to do it. That marks the end of Act 3 of Liyue. Now we have to do the Dainsleif World Quest and Archon Quest to get to AR-30. Before we do that, I was close to getting a 5-star on Standard Banner, so let's just get this out of the way. I just want to get it over with. Please, a 5-star weapon or a Gene. Please. And a Hazo. That's also pretty good. Skyward Blade? I'll take it. Skyward Blade isn't that much of a power increase compared to our other weapons that we have. I'll of course take it, but it's nothing special. Hazo, on the other hand, is pretty cool. Animo Catalyst characters are great, especially when their DPS is like Hazo. And we got him at literally the perfect time. We're about to do the Dainsleif quests, and Swirl works great for the Abyss Mages. You can see how well Hazo works in the first fight with 2 Abyss Mages. The main problem with Hazo at this low level is that he's frail. We complete Bogkeeper Dainsleif, and now it's time for We Will Be Reunited. The fights that I don't cover are the ones that don't go too wrong, or were pretty easy. The group of enemies with the Ruin Hunter was horrible. All my characters are pretty frail, and it was raining when I was doing this, so every time I got hit by the Cryo Mage, I would get frozen, and every time I got hit by the Electro Archer Hilichurl, I would take too much damage. This is the point of the playthrough where Toma's shield starts to really show its weaknesses. It's not the best shield in the game by any means, and it sends off of HP, which we can't really build off of because of how low our base stats are. I died on my first 2 attempts at this fight, but in attempt 3 I managed to whittle down the enemies left standing. I'm honestly surprised it only took 3 attempts. I expected the last part of this Archon quest would be a lot more brutal than it actually was, but it was more so slow. It was a little less than 5 minutes, which is not horrible, but not amazing. What's funny and kind of concerning is that it took longer to take down the Abyss Herald's HP than it was to take down the shield. With this we're at AR-30 and that raises our world level once again. Yeah! We start the Inazuma Prologue quest. The tournament is no problem because we get a buff Traveler, but the slimes took almost as much time as the last fight of We Will Be Reunited. The treasure hoarders, on the other hand, were pretty easy. Still, that slime fight concerns me. They're slimes, and they took that long. Now we can go to Inazuma. The first part of Inazuma Act 1 is a bunch of running around in Rito, which doesn't really matter. So let's cover the transport mission. Now, I sometimes over-exaggerate about some things, but there is no exaggeration when I say that this was one of the worst things I've ever done for one of these Genshin challenges. Let me break down this mission for you. You have to guide the cargo across the beach while fending off a bunch of enemies that include treasure hoarders and Ronin. This wouldn't be a problem on its own if it weren't for the fact that you only have 5 minutes to do this. You might have noticed that the slime battle took almost 5 minutes, so a fight with a 5-minute timer where you have to fight more enemies and tankier enemies is bound to cause some trouble. I realized quickly that I could not beat them by dealing just straight damage, and I had to try to drown them. Even then, some of the enemies don't really get launched easily, and the big boy Ronin can't even be launched. I tried so many ways to get past this part. I tried Venti's black hole to try and pull them over the water so they drown, but Venti's black hole wouldn't reach far enough. I tried charge attacking with Hazel a bunch, but he's too short for this. I even tried using Animal Traveler's Tornado to carry them over the water, but would get stuck right before going over the point where they can drown. I just had to settle with charge attacking with Kaya, but even then that didn't work half the time. Sometimes the enemy would do a pattern that made it so I couldn't grip them up well, which would save time drowning them. Sometimes the enemies would just not get launched and just hit me back, and even when I made it to phase 3, there was no way I could feasibly drown the big guy Ronin. Or so I thought. On one attempt, I got pretty close to actually drowning him by leading him out into the sea with Kaya's elemental skill. But the water below him wasn't deep enough and I ran out of time. That told me that this was probably possible. So I tried some more, and finally on this attempt, I was able to lead him to a point where he would actually be able to be drowned when I melted the ice. But there was one enemy left which I had to kill. I quickly tried to do that and the seconds were ticking by. Would I make it to the end by the time allotted?
You're open.
Yes, I would. Words cannot describe how satisfying this felt. I tried this for an hour and 40 minutes across 35 attempts, and I never want to see that beach in cargo ever again. We can finally make progress now by doing everything that doesn't require combat. Eventually, we do have to do some more combat by breaking somebody out of jail, and this was also terrible. My first attempt I had Toma, Venti, Hazo, and Kaya. I realized in this room with the 2 big Tenryou Commission soldiers that I needed a healer, so I left and swapped Hazo for Sayu. It was still bad because of how frail our characters are. I'm also running out of healing items and revive items because of how much our characters are getting hit and dying. This mission, including the first attempt, took an hour. But once we're completed that, we're done with Inazuma Act 1. It's worth mentioning I really wanted Beto from the Raid Up banner, so I did some magic. I don't even know for sure if she's going to be useful. Now we need to do Ayaka's and Yoimiya's story quest to continue on to Inazuma Act 2. Both of these story quests only have one bit of combat, and they both give us our respective trial characters. Also, what's really sad is Yoimiya cleared most of this guy's health in a short amount of time, and over double the time, we weren't able to take down the rest of this guy's HP with the rest of my characters. This is what happens when you can't level anything. Now we can start Inazuma Act 2. First fight of Inazuma Act 2 is against the Raiden Shogun. Thankfully, this first fight is just an endurance run. When the fight ended, look at how little HP I took from her. Afterwards, we have to save the Virgin from 2 big Tenryou Commission soldiers. The fight took just under 3 minutes, which isn't too bad. We go to the resistance camp and do the archery demonstration with Venti
Please, neg yourself.
before fighting some Tenryou Commission soldiers that show up. This was fine, only took a bit over 2 minutes. Lastly were the fights at the front lines, and none of them are really worth going into. They were all easy. We meet Kokomi, and that's the end of Act 2. The first fight of Act 3 is against some Ronin who are quickly able to be drowned. For the second group, the first wave of Ronin were easily taken down as well, but the second wave with 2 of the big boy Ronin took 9 minutes. And at no point during those 9 minutes I was AFK, by the way. It really took that long. Next we trigger the Electro Monuments with Lisa and fight the Electro Lava Troll that appears. For most of the fight it was pretty easily taken down. He only killed some of my members because I was getting sloppy near the end of the fight. The Virgin dies, and I have some bad news regarding the Delusion Factory. I did my first attempt at this domain, and it took a full hour, and I ran out of all of my revives at the Door of Resurrection, as well as ran out of revive items. I did make it to the second to last fight, but that was with some cheeky tactics, and I didn't even kill any of the enemies in the second to last fight. There was excessive healing and reviving, and in this room the Electro Mage got stuck on a shelf. By the way, if she weren't to have done that, she would obliterate us with her Electro Orb. And then the combination of Animo Boxer, Electro Hammer Guy, and Hydro Gun Guy in the second to last fight makes me honestly think I'm not good enough to do this. The Hydro Gun Guy is way too tanky, we need to take him down before anybody else because he'll just heal them. The Electro Hammer Guy can hit through our shields and one-shot our team members, and the Animo Boxer is super annoying. I tried a few things to make this domain easier, but it's not happening. I could do one or two things. Grind an insane amount for artifacts, which might not even help in the end, or I can use buffing food. If you wonder why I haven't used any buffing food throughout the entire playthrough, it's because it defeats the purpose of this challenge. Jade Parcels, for example, pretty much triple our attack, so what's the point of doing any fights without those buffing foods if you have them? But the problem with that is that the materials necessary to cook them are only sold at shops and you can't process them. I'd be able to make a max of 2 Jade Parcels. So what will I go with? Grind artifacts or give in to the buffing food? Well, I choose option 3. Spend money to get another character because I'm close to getting a 5-star and event banner. Yeah, I'm done with this account. Yeah, it's time to move on. I've been working for too long on this challenge, and it's officially hit a brick wall. And besides, even if I get past the Delusion Factory, there's still an insane fight with Signora left, and all of Cimmeria as well as the Chasm. I think it's just better to say this challenge is not possible, and move on to the next challenge. All the characters I used were Toma the Train, Kaya, Bennett, Sayu, Hazo, Venti, Dory, and Beto. All of which, maybe besides Beto, were great and helpful plenty of times throughout the playthrough. Especially Toma the Train and Kaya. I think it goes without saying that this challenge is going at the top of hell. When I was in Mondstadt and Liyue, I did not expect things to get this bad, but here we are. Sorry to the people who are disappointed by this, but I don't really have any other choice unless I want to spend weeks grinding for this challenge. I'd rather make more videos that I know I can get out on time and not try for weeks and weeks to get the perfect run. The next challenge will be the one that I promised for 10,000 subscribers, Dory only. Once again, I apologize, but it can't be helped. I'll leave you guys with that.